I never thought I'd be the guy telling a story like this. You know, the kind you read on Reddit or hear from a friend of a friend, some poor bastard blindsided by the person he trusted most. But here I am. My name is Daniel Carter, and for the last 10 years, I thought I had built a good life with my wife, Emily. We weren't perfect, but we were solid, at least, that's what I believed. We met in college, one of those whirlwind romances that felt like it was meant to be. She was the kind of woman who could walk into a room and make people pause, not just because she was beautiful, but because she had this presence. Confident, warm, like she truly listened when you spoke. It's funny how I used to think that was a gift. Now, I wonder if it was just a skill. We had our routines: weekday dinners, lazy Sunday mornings with coffee and crossword puzzles, and Friday nights spent watching old movies. She worked in marketing, managing big campaigns that took up a lot of her time, and I ran my own software consulting business from home. It worked out well. She handled the networking and social events while I enjoyed the peace and quiet of remote work. But looking back, maybe I was too comfortable. Maybe I was blind. The first hint of trouble. I can't pinpoint the exact moment things started to shift. Maybe it was the first time Emily started working late more often, brushing it off as a big client launch. Maybe it was when she stopped asking me about my day, when conversations became one-sided. Or maybe it was when she began hiding her phone like it held state secrets. I noticed the small things first. The way she'd smile at texts but never say who they were from. How she suddenly had a new perfume, one she only seemed to wear to work. And then there were the mysterious nights out. It started about a month ago. Emily told me she was going to grab drinks with coworkers. Nothing unusual, right? But when I texted her around 10:30 p.m. to see if she needed a ride home, my message stayed unread for almost an hour. When she finally responded, it was short. Sorry, lost track of time. Be home soon. That alone wouldn't have set off alarms. But when she got home, she smelled like cologne that wasn't mine. And the look on her face? It wasn't the happy, tipsy glow of someone who had a fun night out. It was nervous. I didn't push it. Maybe I should have. The missed calls. Then there were the weird phone calls. Twice in the last few weeks, I picked up our landline. Yes, we still had one, and the caller immediately hung up. That never happened before. We weren't the type of people to get prank calls, and Emily's reaction when I mentioned it? Spam calls, babe. Just ignore them. That should have been my wake-up call. But I convinced myself I was being paranoid. That this was just a rough patch. Then, one night, I saw something I couldn't ignore. The missing necklace. Emily had a silver necklace I gave her for our 3rd anniversary. She wore it all the time. It wasn't flashy, but she always told me it was her favorite piece of jewelry. One night, as we were getting ready for bed, I noticed it was missing. "Where's your necklace?" I asked. She froze just for a split second, but I caught it. "Oh, it broke. The chain snapped. I need to get it fixed." It was a simple answer. Plausible. But something about the way she said it, too quick, too rehearsed. And then she turned away too fast, as if she was hiding something. That's when my stomach twisted. Something wasn't right. I had to find out what. It's strange how your mind tries to protect you from the obvious. You tell yourself that everything is fine, that the changes are just stress, work, or bad timing. You ignore your gut instinct, even when it's practically screaming at you. I ignored mine for far too long. But the night I found the first real piece of evidence, denial was no longer an option. The receipt. It was a Tuesday night, and Emily was working late again. She'd been doing that a lot lately, always some big meeting, a client dinner, or an urgent deadline that somehow didn't exist on her calendar when I checked. That night, I was cleaning up after dinner when I found it. A folded receipt stuffed between the couch cushions. I don't even know what made me pick it up, maybe just habit, cleaning up clutter, but when I unfolded it, I felt my heart stop. A hotel bar. A bill for 2 drinks. A date and time from 3 nights ago, one of her supposed work late nights. I stared at it, feeling the blood drain from my face. She never mentioned going to a bar. I checked the time, 9:47 p.m. That was right before I texted her that night. The same night she lost track of time. My hands were shaking. This was it. The moment where my reality started to collapse. I took out my phone and checked our shared banking app. No charge. That meant she paid in cash, or more likely, someone else did. I sat on the couch, gripping that little slip of paper like it was a grenade, ready to explode my entire life. Who was she with? My mind raced through possibilities, each worse than the last. Was it a coworker? Someone new? Someone I knew? I needed proof. Solid, undeniable proof. Checking her phone. Emily had always been protective of her phone, but recently, it had become damn near glued to her hand. She used to leave it charging in the kitchen at night. Now, she kept it on her nightstand and always flipped it face down. That night, when she got home, she seemed off. Not guilty, not nervous, just tired. But not the kind of tired that comes from work. She kissed my cheek absent-mindedly and went straight to shower. That's when I saw it. Her phone. Sitting unlocked on the nightstand. I never considered myself the kind of guy to snoop, but at that moment, I felt like I had no choice. I grabbed it. Her messages were clean. No suspicious names, no late-night texts. But when I opened her call log, I froze. One number. Over and over. No name saved, just a random 10-digit string. Incoming. Outgoing. At least 10 times in the last 3 days. My heart hammered in my chest as I copied the number into my own phone. I had to know who it was. The private investigator. I could have confronted her that night. Could have held up the receipt, showed her the number, demanded an explanation. But I knew Emily. She was a good liar. She wouldn't break under pressure. She'd have a story ready, and if I gave her even a second, she'd find a way to spin it. So I needed more. The next day, I made a decision that I never thought I'd have to make. I hired a private investigator. His name was Ernie Metalza, an old-school guy who came highly recommended by a friend. I met him during my lunch break, sitting across from him in a tiny diner, feeling like I was living someone else's life. "You're sure about this?" Ernie asked, stirring his coffee. I hesitated. No. I wasn't sure. I wanted him to laugh in my face, to tell me I was being paranoid. I wanted this all to be some massive misunderstanding. But that wasn't real. "Yeah," I finally said. "I need to know. The truth hurts." For the next week, I waited. Emily's routine didn't change much. She still had her work dinners. She still got those mysterious calls. And I still played the role of the trusting husband, pretending I wasn't dying inside. Then, one afternoon, Ernie called me. His voice was calm, almost too calm. "Meet me at my office," he said. "I've got something you'll want to see." I sat across from him, hands clenched into fists as he slid an envelope across the desk. "Unfortunately, Steve, this confirms your suspicions," he said, voice laced with regret. "They don't even hide it. She goes to him by car in the afternoon, and I personally have seen her do it multiple times. He lives in an apartment on the second floor." My throat went dry. I opened the envelope. Photos. Emily. My wife. Walking into some other man's apartment. Breaking apart. I barely remember driving home that night. My hands were gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles were white. My mind was racing. Who was he? How long had this been going on? Did she love him? When I pulled into the driveway, Emily was already home. She was standing in the kitchen, barefoot, sipping a glass of wine like she had nothing to hide. I stared at her, feeling like I was seeing her for the first time. She looked exactly the same. But everything about her was different now. She was a stranger. "Hey," she said, smiling. You okay? I swallowed hard. No. I wasn't okay. I was about to destroy the life I thought we had. And she had no idea. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed next to Emily, staring at the ceiling, feeling like a stranger in my own home. She was right there, breathing softly, tangled up in the sheets, but she might as well have been a million miles away. I thought about waking her up right then and there. Shoving the photos in her face. Demanding answers. But something stopped me. Maybe it was fear. Or maybe, just maybe, I wanted to see how long she'd keep up the lie. Morning lies. When the alarm went off at 6:30 a.m., Emily rolled over and gave me a sleepy smile. Morning, babe, she murmured, stretching. Her wedding ring gleamed on her finger. A symbol of our life together. A life that, as of yesterday, I knew was built on bullshit. I forced a smile. Morning. She got up, humming to herself as she went to shower. Completely normal. Like nothing had changed. But for me? Everything had changed. I had proof. Undeniable proof. Yet she still acted like the perfect wife. That's when I realized she didn't feel guilty. She didn't feel bad. Because she had no idea I knew. And that made me want to hurt her. Not physically, I wasn't that kind of man. But emotionally? She deserved every ounce of pain I was about to bring down on her. The setup. I called into work and told them I'd be taking a personal day. My boss didn't ask questions, probably assumed I had food poisoning or something. Emily, meanwhile, got dressed for work in one of her usual tight blouses and a pencil skirt. The kind of outfit she knew made her look damn near irresistible. I used to love when she wore that. Now, all I could think was, who the hell is she really dressing for? As she grabbed her purse, she leaned in to kiss me goodbye. See you tonight? She asked. I forced my lips into a neutral position. Of course. She smiled, completely unaware that I was about to destroy her entire world. Following her. I waited exactly 10 minutes before grabbing my keys and heading out. I already knew where she was going. His apartment. But I needed to see it with my own eyes. I stayed back, following her car at a distance. She was too confident, too comfortable, she never even glanced in her rearview mirror. That told me two things. She had done this many times before. She never expected to get caught. After about 15 minutes, she pulled into a modest apartment complex. Nothing fancy, nothing flashy. And yet, this was the place where she chose to throw away our marriage. She parked, stepped out, checked her reflection in her phone camera, and then walked right up the stairs to apartment 207. I sat there for a while, gripping the steering wheel so tight my fingers hurt. I wasn't ready to go in yet. First, I needed to know exactly who I was dealing with. Meeting him. After an hour, I saw him. The bastard himself. He came outside to get something from his car. And I recognized him instantly. James Holloway. A guy from Emily's office. A junior executive she had once mentioned in passing. I remembered the way she had laughed about him at dinner one night. He's so eager, she had said. Like a little puppy trying to prove himself. Yeah. A puppy that was now sleeping with my wife. I got out of the car. James, I called. He turned, confused, he didn't recognize me at first. Then his face went pale. Bullshit, he muttered. I took slow, measured steps toward him. You know who I am? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. He swallowed. Why yeah, man. Look. I didn't let him finish. I grabbed him by the collar and slammed him up against his car. You like screwing other men's wives? I asked, my voice low and steady. Man, I didn't. You didn't what? I snarled. Didn't think I'd find out? Didn't think it mattered? His eyes darted around the parking lot, looking for help. There was none. She told me. What? I interrupted. That we were having problems? That our marriage was basically over? He didn't answer. That was all I needed to know. I let him go, pushing him back against his car. You're gonna go inside, I told him. And you're gonna tell her that I know. All of it. Man, come on. Do it. I watched as he hesitated, then turned and walked slowly back toward the apartment. And I followed. The moment of truth. James opened the door. Inside, Emily was sitting on the couch, still half-dressed, her hair messy from their time together. She looked up, expecting him. And then she saw me. Her eyes widened. Her face went from surprise to horror in seconds. Daniel, she gasped. I stepped inside and shut the door behind me. Go ahead, James, I said. Tell her what I just told you. James shifted awkwardly. He knows, Emily went pale. She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. For the first time in our entire marriage, she was speechless. I pulled out the photos from my pocket and tossed them onto the table. Care to explain? I asked. Emily's hands were shaking as she reached for them. She flipped through them, one by one, her eyes darting back up to me, searching for mercy. There was none. I can explain, she whispered. No, I said. No, you really can't. She stared at me, tears welling in her eyes. And I waited for the bullshit excuses. The blame game. Daniel, I never meant for this to happen. I laughed. Actually laughed. You didn't mean to cheat on me? I asked. What, you tripped and fell onto his dick? She flinched. This isn't fair, she whispered. I haven't been happy for a long time. I exhaled slowly. And whose fault is that? I asked. Did you ever tell me you were unhappy? Did you ever try to fix this? She didn't answer. I nodded. That's what I thought. She wiped at her tears. Daniel, You're a liar, I interrupted. A liar and a coward. Her face crumpled. You could have talked to me, I continued. You could have said something. But instead, you chose this. James was dead silent, looking like he wished he were anywhere else. You know what, Emily? I said finally. What? She whispered. I pulled the divorce papers from my pocket and set them on the table. Merry fucking Christmas, I said. Her face collapsed. And I walked out the door. I walked out of that apartment without looking back. If I had, I might have seen Emily crumple onto the couch, might have heard her sobbing, might have caught James standing there like a guilty idiot who realized he had been nothing more than a tool in someone else's destruction. But I didn't care. I got in my car, gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles went white, and just sat there. What now? I had just nuked my marriage in a single moment. I should have felt vindicated, satisfied, triumphant, but all I felt was empty. I had spent years building a life with this woman, thinking we were a team, thinking we had something real. And in one instant, she had turned it into a pathetic cliché, just another cheating wife, just another dumb husband who never saw it coming. But I had seen it coming. I had known. And I had let it happen. That was what burned the most. And now, I had a choice. Do I destroy her completely? Or do I just walk away? The aftermath begins. I drove home in silence. No radio, no thoughts, just the sound of the tires on the road. When I stepped inside, the house felt wrong. Her scent was everywhere. Her shoes by the door. Her stupid throw pillows on the couch. The framed photos of us on the wall, smiling, pretending. I couldn't take it. I grabbed one of the photos off the shelf and threw it against the wall. The glass shattered, shards flying everywhere, but the picture itself, a snapshot from our honeymoon in Greece, remained intact. That felt like a sick joke. Even when you break something, the past doesn't just disappear. I needed to do something. Anything. So I went into revenge mode. Step 1: Financial warfare. Emily had no idea just how much control I had over our finances. She had always trusted me to handle the bills, the savings, the investments. She liked to spend, I liked to plan. That was the deal. But now, I had all the power. I logged into our joint bank account and did the first smart thing. I transferred out half of our savings into a new, private account under my name only. The law said I was entitled to at least that much. And with proof of infidelity? I might get a lot more. Then I froze our credit cards. Let's see how she enjoyed explaining that to her little boyfriend when she couldn't pay for dinner. Step 2: Social destruction. Emily had spent years cultivating a perfect image, devoted wife, successful career woman, someone who had it all together. So I did the pettiest, most satisfying thing I could think of. I gathered up every piece of evidence I had, the photos, the texts, the call logs, and sent them in a neat little email package to Emily's parents, who adored me. Her boss, who had a strict policy against interoffice affairs. Our mutual friends, because why should I be the only one suffering? And then, just for fun, I texted James's girlfriend. Because, oh yeah, he had a girlfriend. She wasn't just some random woman, either. She was someone Emily and I had met at company events. We had made small talk with her, laughed over drinks. And now, I was about to blow her world apart, too. Step 3: The legal strike. I wasn't going to waste time with second chances. The divorce papers were already drawn up. All I had to do was file them. So, first thing the next morning, I went to my lawyer and made it official. I want everything I'm entitled to, I told him. Understood, he said. And just like that, the real war began. Emily's breakdown. By that evening, my phone was exploding. First, from Emily. Emily, Daniel, please, we need to talk. Emily, I'm sorry. I messed up. But we can fix this. Please, don't do this. Emily, you don't have to tell everyone. Please. Then, from her mom. Emily's mom: Daniel, sweetheart, I don't know what happened, but please give Emily a chance to explain. Oh, she had a chance to explain. She just used that time to screw James instead. I ignored them all. But then, I got a text from James's girlfriend. Sophie, thank you for telling me. He's dead to me. If you ever need to talk, I'm here. That one? That one felt good. The confrontation, round 2. I knew Emily would show up eventually. And she did. The next night, she banged on the door like a lunatic. Daniel! Open the door. I took my time. When I finally opened it, she was standing there, puffy-eyed and desperate. What do you want, Emily? I asked. You ruined my life, she hissed. I raised an eyebrow. Oh? And what exactly did you do to mine? She swallowed, tears forming in her eyes. I didn't mean. Stop, I cut her off. You did exactly what you wanted to do. You just never expected to get caught. She shook her head. I was confused, Daniel. I was feeling neglected, I laughed in her face. You were feeling neglected? That's your excuse? Her lip trembled. I still love you. No, you don't, I said. You just don't want to lose the life we built together. She broke down then, covering her face with her hands. I made a mistake, okay? A huge mistake. But please don't throw away everything we had. I stared at her for a long moment. And then I said the words I had been waiting to say. You already did. I stepped back. And I shut the door in her face. Moving on. The next few weeks were chaotic. Emily lost her job, thanks to the company's no-affair policy. James got dumped and humiliated. My lawyer tore her apart in negotiations. In the end, I walked away with the house, the savings, and my dignity. Emily? She got nothing. And you know what? I didn't feel bad. Not one bit. Because at the end of the day, she had made her choice. And I had made mine. To walk away. And never look back. It had been 3 weeks since I last saw Emily in person. 3 weeks since I had shut the door in her face, since I had watched my lawyer rip through every single legal loophole to ensure I walked away with what was mine. 3 weeks since I had completely removed her from my life. Or so I thought. The thing about cheaters is that they never really let go, not because they care about you, but because they can't stand losing control. They want to dictate the terms of your pain, your healing, and if they can't, they panic. Emily was panicking. She had lost everything, her job, her reputation, her social standing, all in a matter of days. And now she wanted to talk. The reluctant meeting. It started with a text. Emily, we need to talk. One last time. Please. I ignored it. Then came the calls. First a few. Then a dozen. Then came the voicemails. Daniel, please, just hear me out. You owe me that much. I owed her? I nearly laughed. But then came the unexpected one, a call from her mother. I hadn't spoken to Emily's mom since the email bomb I dropped. I figured she had taken her daughter's side, like most parents would. But when I picked up, her voice was strained. Daniel. I don't know everything, but I know enough. I know my daughter messed up. And I know you don't owe her a damn thing. But, please. Just talk to her. One last time. I clenched my jaw. I didn't want to. I didn't need to. But I don't know. Maybe I wanted to see her break one last time. Maybe I wanted the final nail in the coffin. So, against my better judgment, I agreed. One last conversation. The meeting place. I picked the coffee shop where we had gone on our first date. Not for sentimentality. For irony. I wanted her to sit in the same booth where she once looked at me like I was the best thing that ever happened to her and now realized that she had thrown it all away. I arrived first. Sat in the booth. Waited. Then, she walked in. For a moment, I barely recognized her. She looked wrecked. Dark circles under her eyes, hair not as perfectly styled, her usual confident stride hesitant. She saw me and exhaled, like she had been holding her breath the whole time. She slid into the booth across from me. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then, she spoke. I don't even know where to start, she whispered. I leaned back, arms crossed. Then don't. Just get to the point. She flinched but nodded. The excuses begin. I've had time to think, she started, her voice wavering. About everything. About what I did, and how I hurt you. And I need you to know I never meant for this to happen. I gave her a flat stare. Bullshit. Her eyes widened. Daniel. No, I cut her off. You don't get to sit here and act like this was some accident. Like you just stumbled into his bed by mistake. You chose this. Over and over again. She swallowed. I was unhappy. I laughed. Oh, here we go. The classic unhappy wife excuse. It's not an excuse, she snapped. It's the truth. I felt like we were just existing. Like we weren't connected anymore. And James, he. Don't say his name, I said coldly. She shut up real fast. Good. The real truth. You could have talked to me, I said. You could have told me you were struggling. But instead, you decided to lie. To sneak around. To humiliate me. Tears welled in her eyes. I know. I shook my head. No, you don't. You don't get it. You were willing to risk everything, our marriage, our home, our life, just for what? For some loser who was willing to screw a married woman? She flinched. It wasn't just about him. Then what the hell was it about, Emily? I demanded. What was worth throwing away 10 years of marriage? She hesitated. Then, in a small voice, she said, I wanted to feel wanted. I stared at her. And for the first time in this whole mess, I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. No pain. Just nothing. I nodded slowly. Well. Congratulations. You got what you wanted. She let out a shaky breath. But let me ask you something, I continued. Did it feel good? Did screwing him make you feel alive again? She opened her mouth. Closed it. I leaned forward. Because you don't look very happy now, Emily. You look like someone who made the worst mistake of her life and knows she can't undo it. She broke then. Silent tears streamed down her face as she looked down at her lap, unable to meet my eyes. Good. She deserved it. The final blow. Daniel, she whispered. I don't want a divorce. I laughed. Like, full-on laughed. Right in her face. Too bad, I said. Because you're getting one. She reached across the table, trying to grab my hand. I know I don't deserve another chance, but... I pulled back. Damn right, you don't. She bit her lip, eyes pleading. I don't know who I am without you. I tilted my head. Sounds like a you problem. She sucked in a sharp breath, like I had just stabbed her. I stood up. Goodbye, Emily. Her face crumpled. Wait. I didn't. I turned and walked out of that coffee shop, leaving her sitting there, alone, just like she had left me. And I didn't look back. Not once. Moving on. It's been a month since that last conversation. I finalized the divorce. I got everything I wanted. And I never saw Emily again. She tried, of course. More calls. More texts. More pathetic attempts to talk. But I was done. Completely. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. I wasn't some betrayed husband anymore. I was just me. And that? That was enough. It's been 6 months since my marriage ended. 6 months since I walked out of that coffee shop, leaving Emily behind in her self-made disaster. 6 months since I took my life back. At first, I thought the pain would last forever. That every morning, I'd wake up and feel that crushing weight in my chest, that familiar sense of loss, anger, humiliation. But here's the thing no one tells you about betrayal: it doesn't break you forever. It changes you, yeah. It makes you more cautious, colder, smarter. But at some point, you wake up and realize you survived. And then? You start to live again. Letting go of the ghosts. After the divorce was finalized, I moved out of the house Emily and I had shared. Not because I had to. The house was legally mine, thanks to a brutal divorce lawyer who made sure Emily walked away with nothing but regret. But staying there? Sleeping in the same bed, walking past the same rooms where we built a life together? No. I needed something new. So I sold the house. Every last bit of it. Furniture? Gone. Wedding photos? Burned. Memories? Erased. I rented an apartment downtown, a modern place with zero history attached to it. No ghosts of Emily lingering in the corners, no reminders of the past. Just me. Starting fresh. Cutting the last ties. Emily tried to reach out. Of course, she did. First, it was apologies. Emily, I just want to talk. Please. Then, it was nostalgia. Emily, do you ever think about the good times? About what we had? Then, it was desperation. Emily, I miss you. I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. I never responded. Eventually, she stopped trying. And that was the final victory. Because when a cheater stops chasing you, that's when you know they finally understand. You're never coming back. The people who stayed. Betrayal doesn't just test your relationship. It tests your friendships. Some people? They stayed neutral. They didn't want to pick sides. Didn't want to get involved. And to me, that meant they weren't really my people. So I cut them loose. The ones who stood by me? My best friend, Tom, who helped me move out and kept me from doing something stupid in the early days. Emily's parents, surprisingly. Her mom called me after the divorce and said, "I don't blame you for anything, Daniel. I raised her better than this." Hell, even James's ex-girlfriend, Sophie, the woman I had unknowingly saved, reached out a few times. She told me she had moved on, was doing better. And that made two of us. Dating again, or not? People ask me if I've started seeing someone new. The truth? I'm in no rush. I've had opportunities. A coworker who made it clear she was interested. A woman I met at a bar who gave me her number with a knowing smile. But right now? I don't need it. For the first time in years, I'm not someone's husband. Not someone's safety net, provider, or second choice. I'm just Daniel. And honestly? That's enough. For now. The last time I saw Emily. It happened by accident. I was out grabbing groceries, minding my own business, when I turned a corner and there she was. Emily. She looked different. Not bad, exactly. But tired. A little worn out. Like life had hit her hard, and she was still trying to catch up. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then she gave me a small, hesitant smile. "Hey." I nodded. "Hey." Awkward silence. Then, she shifted her bag in her arms. "You, look good." I almost laughed. I did look good. Because I was free. "Thanks," I said simply. She hesitated, then, so quietly I almost didn't hear it. "I really did love you, you know." I could have said something bitter. Could have told her that love isn't sneaking around behind someone's back, that love isn't destroying the person who trusted you most. But instead, I just said the truth. It doesn't matter anymore. She nodded slowly. And that was it. No begging. No apologies. Just two people who used to be everything to each other, now nothing more than strangers in a grocery store. I walked away. And this time? I didn't feel a damn thing. So, is it a new beginning, or endless pain? I think people expect me to say that I'm still broken. That I can't trust, can't move on. That I lie awake at night wondering what went wrong. But here's the truth. I'm okay. More than okay. I wake up without a knot in my stomach. I come home to a place that's mine, and mine alone. I don't have to wonder if the person beside me is lying, sneaking, betraying. For the first time in years? I'm at peace. So is it a new beginning? Yeah. But it's more than that. It's a new life. And it's finally, completely mine.